NASCAR heads north to the Magic Mile this weekend. We break down our best bets and DFS tiers for New Hampshire next on the Backroad.
It's a non-points race, but it is a short race. Checkered flag. Those are all this race does.
From the States.
Good evening, one and all. Happy Thursday night from wherever you are. This is the Backroad. It's in between media's fantasy NASCAR betting show. Elliot Hicks and Seth Woolcock here with you tonight. We're going to talk some New Hampshire. We're up in the New England area this weekend. The lobster rolls and the chowder and all that as we head to the Magic Mile. First, we're going to react to Iowa and some other NASCAR news first. And as always, we'll give you our best bets for the Cup Series and the Xfinity Series, as well as our DFS tiers to round out the show. Going to be a good Thursday night. Yeah, Seth?
Hey, Elliot, we're back to swinging a hot bat right now, and the books don't like it. They're really giving us the middle finger this week, but fuck them. Vibes are high. I'm heading to the hometown this weekend for alumni weekend, and I think I have the last Busch Light apple from here to the Mississippi in hand right now. So full swing ahead for us this week, man.
Yeah, man, I'll forever miss that Busch Light apple. Maybe one of these summers. The peach just doesn't hit the same.
Let's get a watermelon with Ross, man. Let's get a watermelon Busch Light. I think that might be next on the docket. But regardless, I will always miss Busch Light apple, and happy to have the last one here with me tonight.
Great times for sure. But hey, enough about the beer, and let's start to get into the racing talk here. Let's look back in the rear view at Iowa. So before we even talk about the racing, it was just so nice to have NBC back as the broadcaster, the NBC networks. They're both on USA, but same thing. There's certain parts about Fox that we all know and love, whether it's just because of tradition or what, but it's night and day with the NBC broadcast. Just brings a whole new level to what we're watching.
It's not even close. And even having Dale not in the booth was a little bit sad. No Steve Letarte on Saturday. I think he lost his voice or something. But regardless, the broadcast quality, having a post-race show, they were doing the triple boxes at one point. Like, you're just seeing so much action. It's not all tied up on the leaders. So great overall work by NBC. Very happy to have them back in the booth, as you said, Elliot.
Going to be a great rest of the season. For the Xfinity race at Iowa, first time back there in a while for them. They'd been there before, though. Chandler Smith dominates, but Sam Mayer, as you say here, he continues to prove he's here to stay. Good copyright in there, Seth.
Yeah, this was a very interesting race because we did have a lot of tire issues. We saw Justin Allgaier go in the wall. We saw just a lot of drivers taking some really, really big hits. So that's kind of never fun to see. You kind of hate people going head on in the wall like that. But really fun race start to finish. Riley Herbst gave him hell at the very end, but Sam Mayer proved that, he's around, dude, and he is a great prospect. When you look, he's won 6 races in about the last year, Elliot. So really one of the better. I think I saw a stat out there. I think he's won 6 Xfinity races, and I think everyone else full-time in the Xfinity series since then has won like max 2 or 3 races.
Yeah, he's definitely been dominant, and he's showed that he was kind of upset at not being mentioned for Cup rides, but he is still so young. Go out there, win some more races in a JRM
Absolutely.
ride. Eventually, if you're good enough, you'll get the call. And, in the Cup Series, first race in Iowa, everyone very excited. We were a little worried going into it with the tire issues. Could this be as bad as like a 2008 Indianapolis, the worst case scenario? The tires were not that bad. They gave out in a reasonable amount of time. We did see tire issues, but it was a damn good race, and Ryan Blaney ends up taking the checkered flag.
Yeah, and very interesting weekend from a Cup Series perspective as well, Elliot, because we go out on Friday, we have that extended practice, and the favorite, Chris Bell, drives right into the wall. His tire goes down, and we see a ton of tire issues between Ross Chastain and different people on that Friday night practice. And we heard that Goodyear then went around. They say, hey, we might have got the calculations a little bit off, and gave the Cup team some more data. They went back to work and put on a hell of a show. I was dead wrong in that I didn't think there was going to be much passing. I thought it was going to be a single lane racetrack, more what we saw from North Wilkesboro.
Mm-hmm.
Totally wrong. Totally wrong. This was an awesome track. You could feel the energy. I loved the shot of Jeff Burton in the crowd right before they went green. Like you could feel the energy there. It looked spectacular, kind of like in the bumfuck nowhere. But just looked great. And Ryan Blaney came through for us. I hope the IBT family came with us on that one. We got him at plus 850 last week with a little boost on Caesar. So thrilled about that, Elliot.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And Blaney, not that he didn't have a good car, got kind of lucky with how the race turned out.
Yes.
Because I think Christopher Bell was one of the fastest cars, got caught behind on some pit strategy, took him the rest of the race basically to get back up to fourth place. And had he had a few more laps, or if that turned out a little differently, the 20 car may have ended up passing that 12. And same with Kyle Larson. He was really the class of the field, going from back to the front, leading a bunch of laps, ends up getting caught up, making a little bit too aggressive of a move, ends up in the fence, doesn't work out for the HendrickCars.com car.
Yeah, and I felt really good because I was on Blaney, I was on Larson for the outright. So I was super bummed when Larson wrecked himself, and we end up seeing him go out of the race. And I'm sitting there holding the outright. I'm sitting there holding the top Chevy card for him. So that was a bummer. But Blaney just continues to have speed here, and he like we saw this coming, right? Like I didn't think I was You put it in your column last week too that you were on Blaney as well. Like it's not a surprise. He had the winning speed a couple weeks ago just at Gateway. So very, very happy for Ryan Blaney. We thank him. And also a couple other notes from the weekend. Did you see DraftKings? They put out a boost last week and a 30% profit boost. First one I've seen all season from DK. So something sports bettors need to keep in mind is, hey, we might be getting deeper into the season. People might not have their heads always on NASCAR, but still some promos out there for us to take advantage of, Elliot.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Always nice when they throw us some extra money. You just got to find the right bet to put it on, which is always such a pain, as we know.
Yeah, yes. Super, super good weekend, super profitable for us. I hope you guys tailed Elliot and myself, hit the Blaney outright, hit Briscoe over Cindric, boosted that up on DraftKings to minus 120, smashed that on Sunday. Brad over Gibbs, that was a great hit for us. Todd Gilliland's fucking awesome right now. The dude is just an absolute weapon, and we got the under 21.5. It wasn't even a sweat. Most of that race. And in the Xfinity series, got washed. I got to stop betting on Justin Allgaier. That guy fucking screws me over every week. Thank God Corey Heim was around though. Like hit the top 5 on him, but still felt good. I was on Chandler Smith, who I think had the fastest car in that race. So like I feel like we're seeing, especially on these short flats, which we're going back to another one this weekend, we're seeing the field well. I feel like we really know who's going to be in, who's going to be out. We might have a couple surprises here and there, but I feel like we're locking in. We have a lot of data from this season so far.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Easier to pick up as the season goes on. Corey Heim really impressed me in that Xfinity car. Todd Gilliland did too. I'll talk a little bit more about him later. Ooh. And going back a couple of weeks, really putting my money where my mouth is. The Sonoma bets, it was my best betting weekend that I've had in NASCAR betting. So since I wasn't on last week, just wanted to show you guys a little more that, hey, maybe we're doing something right here, and appreciate all of you for tuning in.
Yeah, appreciate the IBT family. Thank you guys for tuning in tonight. We greatly, greatly appreciate the growth on the channel. The last month has been absolutely insane. So thank you guys for that. I put out a challenge. If we can get to 1,200 subscribers a month from now in Pocono, we'll do another little giveaway out there. That's a big ask. That's at 1,200 is a big ask. So I'm not sure that we'll get there. I'm kind of playing a little safe there, Elliot. But if we can, we'll do some giveaways when we're out there. We got Charles riding with us. What's up, guys? Excited for a new show tonight. Excited for you to be here, Charles. I know Charles, he got down on Blaney post-practice and qualifying. So I know he hit a little nice outright for him as well. Good on you, Charles. And we got Rachel riding with us as well. What's up, Rachel? We appreciate you being here on Thursday night. Elliot, in addition to Iowa, I think there is some news we can touch on quick before we get to breaking down what's going to be an exciting race up in Loudon.
Yeah, for sure. Busy week in the NASCAR world. Even some big news dropping today, but we'll start with finally Martin Truex Jr. finally puts the question to bed. He'll be retiring from full-time racing at the end of the season. Number 19 will be vacant. And really, one of the guys who started as a hot prospect, kind of molded into a field filler type of guy, and then ends up putting up numbers with Furniture Own Joe Gibbs that will make him almost certainly a first ballot Hall of Famer whenever he's eligible.
34 Cup Series wins, back-to-back Xfinity Series champion. And people forget, but that 2017 Cup Series championship run with Furniture Row Racing based out of Colorado. That's one of the most impressive feats in NASCAR history, I think, Elliot. Like, not just Cup Series, all levels of the sport, and it doesn't get talked about enough. And, always did things his way too. People question that move from him. People question a lot of things that Martin Truex has done in his life, but he's always done things his way and has never been anyone but him. So congratulations to Martin Truex Jr. on a hell of a career. Just lives life, man. He lives the Bass Pro life, and so excited for him to continue to live that off the track. And maybe there's going to be some opportunities to even bet him next year if he does do some part-time Cup Series or Xfinity Series starts, as he alluded to.
Yeah, he said on the NBC broadcast, maybe as many as 10 races next year. And Denny Hamlin said all he has to do is call 2311 and they will have a Daytona 500 car ready for Truex. And yeah, Bass Pro's been with him since the very beginning, back in those DEI days. Whether or not he fell ass backwards into the Furniture Row thing and the Gibbs thing is one thing, but you're not going to get to championship levels without a damn good driver behind the wheel. Got unlucky, joins DEI at the death of DEI.
Yeah.
Michael Waltrip Racing was the type of team that most of the time you're going to run kind of mid. Occasionally you're going to hit and really have a fast car. Even David Rudiman won 2 races with Michael Waltrip Racing. Martin Truex Jr., good as driver as him. Then moving to Furniture Row, that team continuing to build up. And like I said, ending up now with Gibbs, where really, when you think about it 10 years ago, if we were saying Martin Truex Jr. is going to be the favorite in a lot of races or up there, it'd be like, well, the guy in the 56 car is going to be a favorite? Like, what the fuck are you talking about? But it's really worked out for him. And again, congratulations. And I know that we will see him around the sport some more, which is nice because, some people with his personality were a little worried he might pull a Carl Edwards. Just kind of dip and go off into the sunset. But this man's got racing in his blood. He's also just got hunting and fishing and living his life in his blood too. So he's going to put that over racing starting next year.
Let's get him at Dover next year. Let's do a little Martin Truex Jr. hammer outright. I can already see it right now in the Xfinity Series. I'm excited about it, dude. Like, Eric Almirola, wow, we got him earlier this season. I don't know what the fuck happened there, but having him like in the Xfinity Series was a great betting opportunity for us early in the year. And hopefully we can get MTJ at a couple places next year, whatever level that is. And don't know what happens. I don't know if he'll just be fishing and hunting all year, but either way, good on him. We got Kush hanging out with us saying happy summer solstice. Yeah, longest day of the year, Elliot. It's like still day out. I remember in winter we'll be doing this show and it's like 5:30. It's dark, and here we are, 9:00 at night, still dead bright out.
Yeah, we got the summer solstice, and we are really feeling every bit of it in Pennsylvania. It's been hot in Pittsburgh, so
yes,
all you who live down south, we're getting a little taste of that weather here today.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of running hot, Justin Haley, seemingly the hot name in the garage right now, Elliot, I don't know if we've always believed in Justin Haley's talent here. I've always been a fan, like going back to that first like kind of one-off cup win he had years and years ago. And then when he had those like late 2010s, early 2020 runs with colleague in the Xfinity Series, he looked great, but kind of the hot name right now around the garage, potentially up for a better ride in Cup after taking Rick Ware to really new heights. Average finish of 17.3 the past 6 weeks. And this includes a mechanical issue at Sonoma when he was running in the top 10 for part of that race. So your thoughts on Haley here and just kind of what we're seeing, because he's the chatter around town right now.
Yeah, and I mean, people forget just how young he still is. I was doing some research on him earlier. Still only 25 years old, which, drivers oftentimes don't hit their prime until early to mid 30s. So this guy's still got some time. And I know that in the press and the public, he's been very loyal to Rick Ware Racing, saying they gave me the shot when nobody else did, when colleague threw me on the street. I'll stay with Rick Ware for 5-10 years, however long. And that could work if Rick Ware continues an upward climb and could end up being one of the, top 3 to 4 Ford teams, which could be a good thing. But I think this is a guy that definitely has the potential to get into a bigger ride. I mean, I think that the timing's not right for him to take the 19, obviously at Gibbs, but there's some moving and shaking, even if it's not this year, maybe next year. I don't know what his contract is over there at Rick Ware, but he is certainly outperforming what we've expected from those rides before. And I remember us having a conversation on the way home from Pocono, just driving, about how it seems like Rick Ware Racing, it's just you make the right moves, you get the right people in the door, you get the right support, and man, oh man, the sky can be the limit. And getting a good driver like Justin Haley, it's been great for that team. It's been great for Haley, for everyone to be talking about him, because it was, I feel like putting a Ware car in the top 10 is more of an accomplishment than a Colleague car in the top 10. Maybe that's just because people think of Colleague as being good in Xfinity, so therefore they should be good in Cup. I'm not sure if there's a disconnect there or whatever. But point is, Justin Hay has been running his ass off this year. One way or another, Rick Ware is not going to be his last stop in the Cup Series.
Absolutely. I'm very intrigued to see where he could potentially land. And before we maybe speculate on that, I'd also just like to say, like, shout out Rick Ware himself and that entire organization. Obviously, the alliance with RFK is paying off. Like, he looks like arguably one of the 6 or 7 fastest Fords every week, if not better. So I think he's been running great. And if he could potentially like cash a win here somewhere, I know Chicago Street here in a couple of weeks, like we'll definitely have him circled after a really good run. I'm sure the books will be onto that and have his odds nuked down a little bit. But if he can like squeeze out a win, he could be a guy who makes a run in the playoffs, not to the Final Four, but maybe top 8, just because he doesn't have bad finishes. Every week, it seems like, unless the equipment gives out on him, he's running somewhere around 10th to 20th. And a lot of times it's just like, don't have a bad race in those playoffs. We saw it last year with MTJ, Hamlin, Logano kind of biting themselves in the butt. So I like what we're seeing from Justin Haley here. Where do you think he ends up, Elliot? Where do you think is the best fit for him? Or do you think he should just stay in this car that's seemingly great all of a sudden in number 51?
Yeah, well, I will say first, I really admire your optimism calling a Ware car a playoff car, because I don't think they're at the level of winning races, but we have seen stranger things happen in the Cup Series. And like I said, Haley's a playoff driver, and if he gets into a better car, what that better car is, I don't know. Like I said, I think that this year, just because of the Stewart-Haas thing, I think that he's better kind of just hunkering down, staying in that Ware car, seeing if they can really put together a full season. Because there have been moments where the car's kind of given up on him. There's been mechanical issues, or just where they can't put a full race together.
Clash, Daytona. Yeah. Like he was running really good in both those races. I wouldn't mind seeing him get in the 21. I know we originally thought that might be Briscoe, and now we're thinking maybe Briscoe's going to JGR. So I wouldn't mind that 21 team, but is that really an upgrade right now? Like it's in the Penske stable. It's really a 4th Penske car, but I don't know if that is a lot better than what he has right now.
I think it's an upgrade, and I just think that Harrison Burton has run so badly that we think it's not. I think that's because Ryan Blaney was winning races in it. Matt DiBenedetto had a few good runs in it as well. I just think Harrison has run so bad, and I do think the way silly season ends up, I don't know that he stays in the Cup Series.
Charles asking if Trackhouse buys a 3rd charter, think Haley could land that ride? No, dude. They have so many people in the pipeline between SVG, Zane Smith, and even Connor Zilic down below. Like, he doesn't want to get you don't want to get involved with Trackhouse now.
Yeah, Trackhouse is they already are probably going to let Zane Smith go. I mean, if the rule says you can't buy any more than 3, there's not going to be more than they're not going to be able to buy 2 at once here, as we'll talk about in just a moment. They're not in the position for that. I think another team down the line, if we can get a couple more charters moving and shaking, say that one of these teams bows out or something like that, maybe it could even be to the level that this RFK alliance works out. If RFK ends up going with a 3rd full-time car, maybe you throw Justin Haley in that 60. But that's a ways down the road. I think right now, put together a full year with RWR next season, keep up the good momentum this season, and see where the chips may lay. A year removed from the SHR nuclear bomb hitting the silly season and really, leaving a lot of people stranded.
Yeah, and kind of speaking about that, the fallout of that here, we have news just breaking before we get on the program, which is great. Gene Haas expected to keep 1 Cup Series charter and run 2 Xfinity Series cars. I don't know if I completely saw this coming. You said back to me when I put it in our company Slack earlier, this kind of seemed obvious, but at the same time, I thought it was Joe Custer is my, maybe he buys one of these charters and it's Custer racing, but looks like Haas is going to stay in the sport, Elliot.
Yeah, and I think that point is correct. This is, Joe Custer is going to be the man in charge. Cole Custer's father is going to be the man in charge of what's going to be called Haas Factory Team. Gene Haas, obviously, he's got the F1 presence. He's had the NASCAR presence well before it was Stewart-Haas Racing. Tony's getting out. They're downsizing a lot, but Gene Haas is going to keep one of those charters and keep the Xfinity program alive, which I think is important. Maybe Cole Custer gets the bump up to Cup, based partly on performance and partly on nepotism. But they can also go out there and get a good driver. If they want to go outside of the box, maybe Riley Herbst isn't necessarily out of the box, but he's not getting talked about as much for Cup. Maybe a little bit. Maybe the money makes it work. Maybe he jumps somewhere else. Money. Yeah, but maybe a Haley even could end up in here if they want to go totally outside of the box. But it will be interesting to see what they do. I think keeping the Xfinity pipeline alive will be good. But who knows if they're going to be a Ford team even too. Maybe they jump somewhere else. We'll have to see which manufacturer can woo them away from Ford, if that would be desired. I think Ford really needs those Xfinity cars. As for the Cup
yeah.
cars, I don't know, but we'll see what happens there. But now we were wondering what happens with the fourth charter, because in the article that I wrote a couple of weeks ago, we know Trackhouse is probably getting one. We know that Front Row is getting one.
Yep.
And we know 2311 is almost certainly getting one. So what was going to happen with the fourth stays with Haas.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what Gene Haas and the Custer guys can whip up here, and definitely some question marks. I even have heard rumblings around that, hey, maybe we see Riley Herbst get in one of these Toyota rides in the Cup Series just because of the monster backing and the funding he's bringing in. So, and he has ran better. I'll talk about Herbst later on, but yeah, definitely excited for this. And I'm not sure what happens with their Xfinity Series car, who takes over this Cup Series car, but either way, good to still see some ownership from a guy like Gene Haas, who's been ingrained in motorsports in a variety of fashions for such a long time, Elliot.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, we'll have to see how they run. If they run even comparable to how like if we aggregate the top 3 Stewart Haas cars and this car runs to that average, it's not bad. But there is a part of me that's like, well, if you're going to get all the way out, make all your money, sell this fourth charter to a team that could potentially run better and add a third playoff car.
Yeah.
But we don't know if this is going to be the case, because if you remember back before Stewart Haas Racing was a thing, it was called Haas CNC Racing.
Yeah.
Number 66. That car really never ran that well.
That was a long time ago. Who knows? Maybe Josh Berry and Rodney Childress, maybe they stick it out and,
That's true.
thug it out there in SHR land. All right, though, Elliot, enough speculation, enough silly season talk. How about we get into a little New Hampshire breakdown here?
Yeah, let's go ahead and break down the Magic Mile in this week's Horizon Forecast.
Hey, Michael, it was only 20% chance of rain. I think we got all 20.
New Hampshire's kind of an interesting place to go, because in a shape, it looks a lot like Martinsville, but it's bigger than Martinsville. It's more considered a shorter flat track. It's got more banking. Some of the comp tracks you have here definitely are not like Martinsville.
Yeah, like you get those super narrow straightaways that is very reminiscent of Martinsville, but the corners are so unique, and this is really a driver's track as well. Like we're gonna have some long shots. We're gonna take some shots here because anything can happen here. And the calamity, when it does happen, when shit does hit the fan here, it can rack up quite a bit of cars. Just because it is so narrow. So something to keep in mind here. But the books don't feel that way because just juice is hell everywhere. But looking at some of our primary comps, Elliot, Phoenix, Gateway, Richmond, Iowa. So we're dialed in. I feel dialed into that. Secondary comps, we can also look at North Wilkesboro and Martinsville. Does that sound about right to you?
Yeah, I think that works perfectly. The shorter flats. And like we said, there's varieties of differences there with those tracks, but they still run similar enough, still run with the package. North Wilkesboro is a tough comp because the repave, it basically wasn't a track. It was a merry-go-round this year.
Yeah.
And like I said, Martinsville runs a lot shorter. If Martinsville's a paper clip, then New Hampshire, we can call it a supersized paper clip with some faster speeds.
Certainly. Looking at the schedule here for the weekend, Elliot, rain is going to be in the forecast. So you're going to hear it pretty much everywhere from every media outlet this weekend. Saturday, if it goes, it's going to be Cup practice and qualifying 12:35 p.m. Eastern time. Xfinity race 3:30 p.m. Eastern time. That's a SciAps 200. And then Sunday, again, some more rain in the forecast. 2:30 p.m. Going to be the Cup race, the USA Today 301. Stage break 70, 185, and 301 will end it. Any thoughts on, did the rain weigh into your betting card or DFS lineups this week at all?
I didn't look at the forecast. I didn't know rain was in the forecast.
Oh, okay.
Mine is based on everything happens the way it happens. The only thing I'll say right now about if weather affects it, if Cup is moved to Monday, we're fucking slamming Monday Truex Jr.
Speaking of that rain metric, just so everyone knows, our guy Bob Bodner sent this to us today. The starting lineup would be 9, 12, 24, 20, 48, 22, 19, 1, 6, and 4. So you can pretty much go back from the way they'll practice and go backwards, like break up the two groups, and it kind of works out perfectly there. But it's just something to keep in mind. Like if this does get rained out, we got Chase Elliott, Ryan Blaney, William Byron, and Chris Bell, some heavy hitters right out front, and then your guy Alex Bowman, Elliott.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, hopefully we get it in. Hopefully the metric doesn't set it. Kush here might be confused about what we mean by rain and MTJ. A couple of years ago, especially, seemed like every time a race was moved to a Monday, Martin Truex Jr. was going to victory lane. I think it happened at New Hampshire. It happened at Dover a time or two.
I think Sonoma even last year, right? Was that Sonoma? Or maybe it
Yeah,
was
I don't remember. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but
yeah.
I do know that on a Monday, that's why it's Monday Truex Jr. He's already one of the favorites this week, so definitely going to be my pick if the race does end up getting moved to Monday.
Yeah, Monday Marty, he gets pissed off. He can't be out there on the water, so he starts throwing haymakers inside the car.
He tries to run the damn race as quick as possible because he just wants to get out on the water.
Yes, let's talk some New Hampshire trends here, Elliot. Unlike Iowa last weekend, we have ran here for a very long time in the Cup series.
Used to run 2 times a year until recently.
Yes, yeah. I've always wanted to go to Loudon. It's like 8 or 9 hours for us. I don't know if we ever will get up there, but I would absolutely love to.
It's tucked in a neat little area. I drove past it, a couple weeks after the race weekend. This must have been 8 or 9 days ago, but it looks like a neat little place to watch a race. Eventually I'll have to make it up there too. Maybe we can put it on the IBT race coverage bucket list here in the near
future. Yeah, there we go. Looking at some trends. Chase Elliott owns the all-time best starting position at New Hampshire of 9.0. Also included in that list is Rowdy, Martin Truex Jr., Ryan Blaney, Tyler Reddick, Brad Keselowski, and Denny Hamlin. So kind of your usual suspects. But even if Chase doesn't get the rain out starting on the pole, he might be able to pull this as well. However, Hendrick hasn't won a pole since 2016, so I take that back. Probably fucking not going to pull it, but still might have a good starting position. Looking at some trends for the race itself, all active winners are 29 or older. Just something to keep in mind. It's usually some more veteran drivers, older drivers who do win at this track. And nobody has won from the pole since 2017 when Rowdy did it. New Hampshire is also tied with Charlotte for the third most winners starting outside the top 20. That's happened 10 times, almost 20% of the races. Elliot, that's right up there with Daytona and Richmond. I thought that was really weird. I thought that was really weird. We've been kind of tracking all these trends this season and looking at where the winners come from on New Hampshire. It's very confusing because winners come from the front row only about 18% of the time. That's definitely down from usual average. Top 5, 29% of the time. We usually see that number around 50 to 60%, Elliot. That's all the way down 29, and then top 10, 47%. That's a crazy number. Like the winner is coming out from outside the top 10 more times than not. Is that something we can handicap, or how do we approach this, Elliot?
It's definitely something to consider after practice and qualifying that, New Hampshire, silly as it sounds, is also one of those, battle of attrition kind of tracks.
It is.
We don't really see first-time winners here. Anybody can make 2 fast laps around a mile-long track. So these young kids might be able to qualify. They get into the race, and for whatever reason, it just doesn't work out for them as well.
Yeah, I know a lot of weeks, guys, that we say, like, keep your head on a swivel. And you still need to this week, of course, especially with the weather. And if we go to Monday, we're hammering Marty, of course. But regardless, this is one of those races where if your guy qualifies outside the top 10, don't sweat it. And also, like, don't go out there and just put all your fucking money on the pole sitter this week. Like that, this isn't the week for that. That was last week and the week before. This isn't that kind of race. So just something to keep in mind there. Qualifying. Oh, I guess we already got to the qualifying rain metric. Hendrick has not won here since 2012 at Elliot. I was like, holy shit, that's kind of wild. I feel like
Chevrolet as a whole hasn't won here since 2016.
Really? Okay. Yeah. Okay. And SHR has 6 wins here. I think that's something to keep in mind. I'm high on SHR a little bit this week. I'm high on Barry. We'll talk about him. But for SHR being a newer organization, what year were they first? 2011?
09.
09? Okay.
Okay. Yeah, 09. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, you're a dictionary with this stuff, so I love checking myself off you. But they have 6 wins: JGR 13, Hendrick 9, Penske 7, RFK 7. So if you're looking for kind of a surprising winner race before the playoffs, this might be one of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in those, I looked at the most recent 8 races here. Gibbs has won half of them. SHR has won 3 others. And then Brad Keselowski had the 8th win there. And like I said, 2016 and then all the way back to 2012 for a Chevrolet winner. Just not really a track where we see, especially Hendrick, but the Chevrolets really succeed as of late.
Yeah, it's been Toyota dominated the last few seasons for sure. Bob saying in the chat, there's some really good drivers starting outside the top 20 if it rains. Yeah.
That benefits your metric there more often than not. They come from outside of the top 10, so that'd be the case.
Yeah, absolutely. Stan saying, with Blaney and Cindric both having wins, look for Penske to give Logano the best of everything until he sees victory lane. That could be this week. This is a good track for him. Logano's been on a roll, Elliot. He really has.
Yeah, he definitely has. And you would think that an organization, if everyone else had already won, you'd think they'd be throwing the boat at the other guy to win a race. It doesn't always happen. So
Yeah.
I think Logano's a good enough driver, though. I'd be really surprised if he didn't end up winning to get his way into the playoffs. And that playoff bubble is getting really, really tight, too. Logano on the outside looking in right now. Yeah. Hometown race. Yep.
Hometown race for him as well. Yeah, so definitely something to keep in mind there. But we can't roll out Ryan Blaney either, because it doesn't matter the short flat we go to. Ryan Blaney is on point every single time. Let's look at our Asterisk Mark driver of the week presented by iFantasyRace.com. If you guys haven't checked out iFantasyRace.com, what the hell are you doing? Make sure you're getting over there. It has led me right to the winner the last couple of weeks here, whether it was Ryan Blaney at Iowa or whether it was the week before at Sonoma when I went all in on Kyle Larson. So make sure you're checking out iFantasyRace.com. This week, we're spotlighting Christopher Bell. Last year in New Hampshire, Bell was a top 5 contender, but finished with an asterisk mark 29th. In that race, Bell kind of had a laundry list of problems, which included a slow pit stop, a loose wheel, shocker, Christopher Bell, bad pit strategy, shocker, Christopher Bell. And then to cap off his afternoon, he crashed on lap 288 while running 8th. My takeaway from this really, Elliot, is just, I know we want to get excited about Chris Bell. He's even money to win the Xfinity Series pretty much at every book. And to me, like, I'm not trying to fade him this week. We know he has the pedigree here. He's 3 for 3 in the Xfinity Series. He's won here in the Cup Series. But this is kind of the fuckery we see with Christopher Bell. We saw it last week, even, crashing in practice. So your thoughts on Bell here, or are you going to talk about him later?
I'll throw something out on Bell now. Just that he's one of those guys that is really tough to handicap because he's going to have one of the better cars, both in Cup and Xfinity. There's fuckery that does happen, but, where else are you going to find, there's a lot of value that is being created, but also, Bell's numbers, they're attractive because of what he does on the racetrack, but you're right. You just may get burned by the fuckery.
Yeah. So just keep in mind, like, I'm going to be trying to avoid betting the heavy favorites early this week and kind of letting the race come to me. But let's break that down a little bit further. What do you say, Elliot, here in Parking Garage Props?
Let's go ahead and pull it in park and go with our prop bets for the week. Like we've alluded to a little bit, it's one of those weeks where it's juicy favorites, which creates some value down the books. But, it's tough because how often do the guys deep down the books actually make us money?
Yeah, I mean, this is a really tough week, and I will be honest, I am probably going to be the lightest I've been in really any race weekend this season, unless something changes here over the weekend, unless we see the rain mess some things up on Saturday, or unless we just see some value changes over the weekend. Like, I'm going light this weekend. I hate to say that. Like, every weekend is still an opportunity to make profit, but it's also an opportunity to lose profit as well. And we've been swinging the hot bat, Elliot. So I'm just being like, I'm upping the unit size, but I'm lowering the volume of bets this week, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that is probably a smart way to play it. I would agree with you.
Okay. All right. Let's look at outrights. I'm going to give the floor to you to talk about any of your favorite outrights this week that you're currently on or monitoring closely here, Elliot. I have a couple sprinkles, but altogether, I was just really breaking up a unit on a couple guys that I'll also touch on in the placement props and matchups markets.
Right. And those markets are where I find the value. The outrights are real tough this week. If you really want to drink the juice, I think you got to go Bell or Truex. Bell, the best I saw him on the Action Network was plus 450 at BetMGM. For Truex, plus 550 over at Bet Rivers. Whether it's Sunday or Monday, I do think Truex is going to run really well. And Christopher Bell, if he can avoid the fuckery, is probably going to have one of the 3 to 4 fastest cars. If you want something down the board a little bit, maybe Brad Keselowski. I found him at plus 1,600 at MGM. In the top 10 in the total speed ranking last year, ended up finishing 5th in a beautiful paint scheme this week. I'm not a Boston Red Sox fan, but they have the Fenway connection up there racing up in New England. Car looks great. Driver's been doing well lately. Finally got the monkey off his back. And we saw it with Chris Buescher, getting the win with RFK, ends up ripping off a few more later. Keselowski still has it. And another Ford too, maybe Josh Berry, plus 4,000 over on Bet Rivers. Obviously, it's tough with Stuart Haas, and I wrote more about it in my Between Bets article that you'll be able to read tomorrow on the website. But you have a guy in Berry who's a short track guy. you have a crew chief in Rodney Childers that knows how to fucking nail a setup here, because Kevin Harvick has won a whole shitload of times here in New Hampshire, especially as of late. And you got a crew that's got nothing to lose. Why not go out on top? Stuart Haas has been the team that's pulled off those upset wins here lately. You can't ignore a guy like Berry in that situation.
No, and honestly, that's kind of where I want to jump in on Josh Berry. That is one of my little sprinkles here. I just went 0.2 of a unit, so nothing crazy, low under of a quarter there. Really though, like Berry almost, there was a point last week when I think we both thought to ourselves, holy shit, is Josh Berry going to win this race? And
For
we're
sure.
not on it.
Mhm.
I'm not going to make that mistake 2 weeks in a row. And Berry has just kind of been coming around lately. He's had a couple bad runs at Sonoma, and the week before that, he also crashed out. But before that, Josh Berry's looked really good. He's 10th in the total speed rankings on short flat tracks this season. And also, like, you look back at his Xfinity races here, he's looked fast. He's had the speed. He doesn't necessarily have the finishes. In his first race, when he wasn't full-time, 8th in that race, pulled it in 2022 and started 3rd last year in the Xfinity number 8 for Junior Motorsports there. Stage points in 6 of the 8 stages here. So just some bad luck. And I really think, like, Berry, as you kind of alluded to, man, they know what's going on here. They know what's going on with him and Rodney Childress. They're kind of dialing it in a little bit together. And I'm really confident, man. We even saw Eric Almirola winning the number 10 car here, 2021 as well. So if you're going to invest in SHR, if you're going to get on board, this is the week to do it.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, there were some of the Chase Briscoe numbers I even looked at. I wasn't quite, the stats didn't quite lead me in that direction. And neither do the numbers on paper for Josh Berry, really. It's just more of a gut thing, a Rodney Childers thing. And, hey, this guy knows how to race, even if he hasn't had that much experience at Loudon.
Yeah. We got Kush saying, I love iFantasy racing, 100% with you there.
I love him too, yeah.
Yeah. Bob saying I have Kez 15-1.
I love when I'm not expecting to be on something Bob is, and then he's on it, and I feel a hell lot better about what I'm talking about.
Yeah, no, that's always a good sign. I've been on Kez the last couple weeks and just haven't got the results I've wanted so far. So I'm gonna back down from here. But couple top 5 finishes in his last few starts here at New Hampshire. Had a really nice car here in 2022. I remember when RFK was kind of dog shit at that point as well. So yeah, don't mind Kez. I'm not on myself.
And Keselowski, the most recent non-Joe Gibbs or Stuart Haas winner here. So I don't know if that means anything to anybody.
Chuck asking, would you still take Berry at 33-1? I don't love it as much as I love a 40-1 on him. But I don't hate 33-1. I think like anything above 30 is fair. I saw him like 28-1, 26-1 on some other books, and like that's too short for me for a guy like Berry. But 33-1 for a guy who's been top 10 in the short flat total speed rankings this season, and that's with a really bad run at Phoenix earlier this year when he was just kind of getting used to this car. Like he's arguably been a top 8 to 7 guy here in this next gen car on these short flats, Elliot. So I don't mind a 33-1. Like I'm not, don't bet the house on it, Charles. Take a little nibble though. Take a little nibble. Absolutely. I'll also any other match or outrights you want to talk about before we shift over some matchups here?
No, I don't have any other outrights. In terms of Berry, we'll have to see if practice and qualifying happens, if he ends up qualifying up front, moves that needle, or if it ends up being the metric. I don't know how he'll start.
Top 10.
That up. He'd be top 10. Okay.
Yep. So
so his number would, anything above like 27, 28-1, like you were saying, I'm still relatively comfortable with. But definitely like the 40-1 on Bet Rivers and the 33-1. Certainly not bad either.
Certainly. I want to talk about a matchup with Josh Berry here. It's getting a little buzz around the internet this week, fellas. And that's -126 at FanDuel versus, Rowdy Kyle Busch. I've already gone on about Josh Berry. We don't need to touch on him. I have confidence in this team. And we heard Chase Briscoe say last week, Elliot, that, he talked to someone on his race team that, hey, last week was his last week. He was leaving. Total bummer there. But it feels like this number 4 team, if there is one to invest in, it's kind of them. I feel like Rodney can kind of put the pieces together pretty well around it. And like I'm expecting Rowdy to bounce back because all the media is up his ass right now. He threw out some remarks last week saying that if JGR or Hendrick wanted him back, he would go. Those are some questionable remarks. Those are like you're kind of pretty much putting out feelers, even though he has a no talk clause that, hey, I'm available. I'm interested. And that to me sends red flags in the race team. That camp is not good over there. Barry 10th in the total speed rankings on short flats, Rowdy 16th. Also, Kyle Busch, you could call it bad luck or whatever, but at New Hampshire, he's been terrible since 2020, average finish of 30.75. And when I watch back the 2022 and 2023 race, this guy was like a bull in a fucking china shop. He just could not stop wrecking. It was like, and it's exactly like kind of the Kyle Busch we've seen this year, just spinning out by himself, causing, being too aggressive with other people, wrecking himself. So they're 2-2 against each other this week, or this season at the short flat. So it's not an absolute hammer. But I think one of those being Barry's first race. Barry's looked great. Kyle hasn't. A lot of pressure on him. Give me Barry -126 over Kyle Rowdy Busch, Elliot.
Yeah, I certainly don't hate that matchup. I don't think it's quite as, alarm fire in the 8 camp as you're making it out to be. Randall Burnett has already gone out and said, hey, we get it. We know Kyle's committed to us. And I think that he mentioned JGR and Hendrick because he knows there's no chance in hell he's getting a JGR ride again or a Hendrick ride right now.
Yeah.
Joe Gibbs isn't going to take him back. There's still the sponsorship still isn't there, which is why they didn't want to really make an effort to re-sign him in the first place. And as much as everyone talks shit about some people at Hendrick, there's not a ride that's going to be open there, especially with no sponsorship. They are already self-funding a guy in Larson, even though it's by choice. They are making the choice to do that, and that definitely takes some out of the pocket.
Yeah. So, that's my only matchup that I'm down on in the Cup Series. Do you have anything for us, matchup or group-wise, that you're looking at this week, Elliot?
There was one matchup I pulled out, and I have it grouped with a positional prop, which I have a bunch of, so I won't go with everything here, but we talked about Todd Gilliland a little earlier. Todd Gilliland at +120 over Daniel Suarez, I saw in BetMGM. And just with how well Gilliland has been running and how inconsistent Suarez has been, plus money on the 38, I don't hate that here against a guy like the 99, who just hasn't been able to consistently run well.
Yeah, it's very interesting because Suarez actually kind of had a pop-up performance last week, and I saw this bet as well, Elliot. And anytime I can get down on our guy Todd G, I'm going to try to. Yep. And it was just that was kind of throwing it out for me. And Suarez is a little bit better in the total speed rankings on short flats this season than Todd. But Todd has been far more consistent. I would say he has the crew advantage as well. Like his crew chief, I don't know what he's on. I don't know if he's doing a little bump before the race, but this guy's like out thinking. It was like Ricky Stenhouse's crew chief last week, just outthought the room. Yeah. Todd's crew chief is doing that every week. So I don't mind getting invested in this number 38 program time and time again. So I'll definitely maybe be giving this another look if you're on it as well. I'm curious to think, what do you guys think in the chat? Would you go Suarez? Would you go Todd G here? How are we feeling about Gilly this week? Because I'm very curious. I'd love to hear from everyone else as well.
Yeah, I don't have the Suarez number in front of me. I'm assuming it was probably somewhere around -105. He was definitely the favorite in that matchup, but I like the 38 more.
And at plus money. I think that's that's the key. This to me feels like this should be a -115 a piece type of situation, a pick 'em if you would. Yep. And it's just not that. So I don't mind you sniffing out a little bit of value there. We got Bob saying he's riding with a 38 as well. Bob with you once again. Charles saying Suarez has been shit, but his lucky win at Atlanta. Hey, he had some speed at Sonoma, had some speed last week. That's my only concern. He's been a little bit better as of late. Mm-hmm. Bob saying Logano 20-1 there. Don't mind that. Don't mind that. Didi, what's up, Didi? Thanks for tuning in tonight. We appreciate you. Chuck also took Keselowski over the 4-14 and 48 at +200.
It's tough, but I like it. My first stuff. Gut feeling is I like it.
Yeah, gut feel. Kez is definitely the favorite, I think, in that one, so I don't mind it. But 2-1 for a group for me is tough. I need better value to go against 3 other good drivers like that. Alfred asking in the chat, Elliot, any interest in Bubba at 50-1? Good here, but terrible form. I'll talk a little bit more about 23-11 as a whole. I don't mind. I don't mind Bubba this week. I didn't find a 50-1. I think I was seeing like 45, and I piqued my interest a little bit. Also, plus money for a top 10, I think would be maybe more in the cards for Bubba this week, Elliot. But just in general, like he has looked really good. 2 top 10s, I think 8 the last 2 years here for Bubba. Just not the greatest form. Just hasn't had that speed that he had earlier in the season when he was like a top 5 car earlier.
Yeah, the problem with Bubba Wallace is they just have trouble putting races together, which happens. but I do have that top 10 number as one of my placement props. So I'll just go ahead and, he's
Yeah.
plus 170 on FanDuel, third in 2022, eighth in 2023, in the top 11 in the iFantasy Race total speed ranking on the short flats and at the next gen for Loudon. It's just a matter of can they put the race together. I sure as hell don't think they can put a race together to win, but I do like the top 10 being plus money and a pretty good plus money number at that, especially because he's 2 for 2 in the next gen at making it happen.
Yeah, there's a matchup, Bubba versus Kyle Busch, that they talked about last night on the NASCAR betting preview show here on the channel for like 15 minutes. It was, if you want to debate for the century, just go check it out. It's time stamped in there. But yeah, it went on for 15 minutes about this one matchup, and I would ride with Bubba there. So that's where I've been considering getting invested with Bubba. Top 10, like I think he's right there. I think he's like a ninth to 13th place car. So don't mind that at all. What else did you find here in the placement props market, Elliot? Because I did find two, a little bit of juice that I'm riding, but I am excited about them nonetheless.
Yeah, I've got quite a few in the placements here. I'll go with my first couple, shift it over to you, and then I got two marked here that are my bets of the week that are placement props. So in terms of the placements, we talked about Logano a little bit earlier. His top 5 at plus 130. In his races at Loudon, a 36% top 5 rate. It was the site of his first win back in 09, I believe. And fourth in 2020 and 2021 here, finishing position, as well as a P2 last season. Fourth in the total speed ranking in that race last year. Logano for a top 5. I already talked about Bubba Wallace for a top 10. I have Bowman for a top 10. It's not so much the racing here, but it's the number being at plus 220. Loudon hasn't been his best track, but he is running Xfinity to log some more laps. And there's 4 drivers in the Cup Series this year with 10 top 10s. You got Bowman, Bell, Byron, and Reddick. So, obviously, I couldn't find where the glasses went, didn't clean them off, whatever. We won't bother with that. But Bowman obviously getting slept on. Obviously, I'm going to have that opinion, but seeing other people have that opinion too. The guy's running well enough to not be thrown out of his ride for Kyle fucking Busch. I can tell you that much.
Yeah, Bowman's looked good, man. He just continues to not have top 5 speed most weeks. Like we saw it at Dover, we saw it at Coda earlier this year. Like he pops up here and there with top 5 speed, but most of the time he has top 10 speed. And at over 2 to 1, I might have to consider a sprinkle on that. Yeah, that's not bad at all. And one of those other guys that's just been super consistent from a top 10 perspective this week that I am down on is Tyler Reddick. And I'll say that I usually don't bet Tyler Reddick a ton, especially as of lately, the last 2 months, because you can't really bet his top 10 line. But right now, minus 130 on Caesars. That's the most bettable Tyler Reddick line you've probably gotten for a top 10 in months. I don't know if you've heard about this Permani's 100 Club, Elliot, the Permani Sandwiches 100 Club. So this is where I had some friends who live down in Baltimore, and they just opened one up. And if you camped out and were one of the first 100 in the restaurant, you got a gift card that every week you got one free sandwich. So I'm like that. I'm fucking lining up overnight. I'm camped out beginning of the week. I was eyeing up Tyler Reddick top 10 here, minus 130. Would you stand out overnight for a Permani's 100 Club pass?
Oh, for the 100 Club, I'd think about it. I like Permani's. I don't know if I like it that much to camp out for it, but now that you mention it, I do remember hearing something about that a few years ago. But I wouldn't camp out overnight for that bet either. I mean,
really,
it's a decent bet. 2311 has just been maddeningly inconsistent as a whole. It's not just Bubba, because there's some weeks we've seen Reddick have race winning speed, and there's some weeks Reddick hasn't even been on the map.
So here's my argument here. We already touched on it. Tied for the most top 10s this season. In his first race in Yoder equipment last season, started 6th, finished 6th, 8th in the total speed rankings, also 4th fastest late in the run. That matters to me a little bit. I like a guy who had some late run speed last year as well. 6th in the total speed rankings on short flat tracks this season. If you don't trust me, do you trust Ryan over there at ifantasyrace.com? 7th since 2023 on the short flats, 9th in the next gen era. It just feels weird to me for a guy who legitimately has race winning speed so much that I even nibbled on the 22 to 1 outright on Tyler Reddick as well. Just about, again, under a quarter of a unit, going light this week. But I do like Tyler Reddick enough that 22 to 1 feels like for the Toyotas when you have all the other ones plus 550, 7 to 1, even Ty Gibbs. I don't know where his number is, but definitely not as appealing. I feel like as Tyler Reddick, a guy I think who can win this race. 22 to 1 over there at Caesars. Hop on board, folks. Let's go.
Yeah, I think even DraftKings had Ty Gibbs at 20-1. So Reddick even a better number than that would be neat. And, I
Yeah.
mean, all those stats you laid out, Reddick's top 10 in all those stats. Where is he going to start if in the metric? Let's go with
Oh.
that. Is he in the top 10 in the metric?
Oh, let me look. Not top. No. He was someone. I think he was right around that 10 to 15 range.
Okay,
So
that's not
yeah,
bad. He
no,
can pass a few cars to make it there.
yeah, no. I feel good. I feel good about Tyler Reddick top 10. I'll also throw out my other placement prop of the week. This is my biggest bet of the week. I wouldn't call it my bet of the week. Don't want to throw that turn around too. Like I don't have a bet of the week this week. I'm just gonna say that because
Gotcha. Okay.
yeah, well, because the books are assholes this week, but still, I like this enough. I went 2.5 units on this if it says anything, but I had to drink the juice heavily. Chase Elliott top 10 minus 160. This is the most juice I've drank all season long on a bet. He's also like plus 220 for a top 5 that I might nibble on as well. I'm also nibbling on the FanDuel 14-1 outright for him, half a unit for a potential cash out. Because if he gets on the pull from the rain, they're gonna offer you one right away, whether it's at the beginning of the race or even before the race starts. So I'm trying to work the numbers here, work the system a little bit. Chase, when I watched back the race from 2 years ago in 2022, I was actually very surprised. He was like a legit competitor in that race. Started second, finished second in the total speed ranking, led 13 laps. There was a chance that he was going to win that race and was a bit off last year, 17th in the total speed rankings at Loudon. However, still finished 12th. And that was kind of just like an off year for Chase, but not this year. Number 1 in the points, number 1 in average finish by a wide margin, 9.1. The next best is 12.5. Number 3 in the shorter flat track total speed rankings as well. So he's been the guy at Phoenix, at Richmond, at Gateway, at Iowa. And number 1 if it gets rained out due to qualifying as well. So your thoughts on Chase Elliott here, 14-1 outright and drinking that juice heavy minus 160. That's like the bettable line to me. I won't bet anything past 160, and I barely get there. But for him to even be there, I'm crushing it.
Yeah, I mean, that's a hefty top 10 glass of juice to drink. In the outright, I don't hate it. It's just Chevrolet is not great here. I think that if you're going to have a Chevy or a Hendrick car contend to win, that it's going to be Chase Elliott. I just don't see how he's getting past the Toyotas or, even the Penske cars. I just don't know how that's going to work outright-wise.
I don't know either. I'm going for the cash out because I don't know if he necessarily can win it. That's why I didn't even go top 5 here yet, and I just went top 10. I want to see maybe a little bit more, but I don't know. I just think that the books are disrespecting Chase a little bit this week when you consider who's above him in the odds this week. I mean, it's Bell, it's Truex, Hamlin, Larson, Blaney. Like, I don't know. He's down there. He's even past Logano and Kez. So I think a little disrespect there. I know Ryan from Win the Race had him at 20-1 when things open this week. Like, that would be an awesome fucking number to have right now. So that's all I got from placement props. What else do you have here? A couple potential bets of the week we heard whispers of.
Yeah, well, this isn't the bet of the week, but it's funny you mentioned about the book sleeping on the Hendrick cars. When I was starting my research, I saw William Byron had some pretty hefty numbers. Initially, I had his top 5 at plus 220 from FanDuel on my board. I felt like they were sleeping on him, but I went and looked at his stats in the Cup Series. He's never had a top 10 here. He's never been better than 11th, and there are some real stinkers of finishes here. So I don't think he's going to contend. I don't think Bowman is going to run up front. Kyle Larson, you can't rule him out on any track, but I think Chase will probably run better than him. But in terms of the bets of the week, we've already touched on both of these guys, but I've got some top 10 numbers. We'll start with Todd Gilliland because I already teased him a bit. At Caesars, his top 10 is plus 900, 9-1 for a top 10. In the last 8 races, he crashed out late in the going at Dover when we were there. But outside of that, in the other 7 races, he's been between 8th and 17th. Todd Gilliland is legitimately a top 15 contender week in, week out. And in a place like this where part of it's a battle of attrition, part of it is some good short track luck, I think a 9-1 for a top 10 on a guy that's been running that well is a hell of a good number that the books have put out for us this week.
I don't hate the number. I don't hate the number at all. I will say that. And that's like an eye test bet, like you look at the advanced metrics, they're not going to jump off the page for Todd G this year at the shorter flat tracks. They just aren't, but the finishes do. He wasn't that far from it last week as well. So I don't hate this bet at a 9-1. Like, that's a nibble, that's a little nibble. But yeah, I think that's a good shout out there, my friend.
And then the other top 10, this one's 8.5-1 over on FanDuel, is for Justin Haley. He's run pretty well in the last 5 races, looking at how he's done recently. He was 22nd at the Coca-Cola 600 or the Coca-Cola 373.5, regardless of what you were going to call it.
Sure.
No, that race didn't quite work out so well. Maybe he would have had some more speed there. They ran into an incident at Sonoma, ended up 33rd. He's not that big of a road course driver, and Rick Ware is not that big of a road course team. In the 3 other races other than that, 9th at Darlington, 9th at Gateway, 13th at Iowa with a hell of a lot of top 10 run time. We sure saw it on TV. So especially on a short flat, on an oval, a guy that's got momentum, I think 8.5 to 1 for a top 10. Again, with the books the way they are this week, you got to find value any way you can. I like the Haley bet more than I like the Golan bet, honestly, with those numbers as of late.
Can't blame you. Can't blame you based on the momentum he's seen as of lately. Last couple finishes here, 17th a year ago, 20th the year before. So he's been a top 20 car in colleague equipment. This is arguably like a pretty sneaky little RFK, potentially third car that we're seeing. Like that's the type of speed he has out there right now. So I don't hate it. I don't hate it at all. Definitely something I think worth considering here. So yeah, no backlash for me. I usually am the one to give you shit here, but Elliot, you did your homework this week, my friend.
Yeah, I mean, I just think in a week like this, you got to find value wherever you can get it. And the way these guys have been running, I like it a hell of a lot more than, a minus 130, whatever, or minus 160 for the top guys who are just as likely to run into trouble as these guys who have been running relatively well, even though they're not in nearly as good of equipment.
Charles saying, tailing that Reddick top 10 at minus 130. Let's ride, Chuck. Let's ride, buddy. Also saying took Elliott top 5 at plus 185.
I like that better than his outright or his top 10, honestly.
I would be interested maybe in a top Chevy for Elliott. I honestly didn't even consider it, but maybe that's something I'll go back to the board and look, because it's him and Larson, I think, to me, and then maybe a Chastain. I think that's kind of who you're looking at in the Chevy market there. This is a cool little one from Alfred saying my Elliott top 10 price is looking good because I had it parlayed with Germany to win yesterday. Love the cross sport parlays, and yeah, we got the Euros and Copa Americas happening right now, Elliot, which is a fun little thing for the soccer world happening over the next month or so.
Yeah, heck of a time for sure. I'm sure there's not a lot of audience crossover with NASCAR and European soccer, but definitely a lot of fun to watch. And glad that we've got some guys participating and really knowing what you're talking about, because I think Germany's one of the favorites to win over there in the Euros this year.
If you want more soccer betting information, I actually did a Euros and Copa America preview over on the Betting Pros YouTube channel last week. I don't know fuck about shit with soccer, so I didn't give out any bets, but we had Davis Maddock over there from Sports Grid. He's great. He's a very knowledgeable guy, and he had some great bets, I thought, over there. So if you want more on that, make sure you're checking out the Betting Pros YouTube channel as well. All right, Elliot. Anything else you had from a Cup Series perspective? Whether that be the placement props or specials that we haven't touched on before we talk Xfinity?
I'll shout out my manufacturer props like I do most weeks. Toyota, I found a lot at minus money, and you know that I hate my minus money manufacturer outrights. I got to put in some more time, put in some more research on how often they actually hit or not, but I feel like they miss more often than not. Ford to win at plus 230. I really like that. Chevrolet at plus 280. I don't like it as much. But damn, I mean, I really hate those minus money outrights for manufacturer in a series. I think you tweeted this one out too. I'll shout out one more special here in terms of finishing position. You tweeted about was it the Michael McDowell over under, or maybe it was the Harrison Burton?
Harrison Burton, 28.5 was the line. It is now 27.5, and it's I don't know what were the odds now, because they were like minus 110, I think, when I was looking at it.
Yeah, I don't have the Burton particularly, but I do have I'm fading McNasty this week. I'm putting his finish over 21.5 at plus 120. The last two oval races, he's been 23rd and 25th. It's dropped like a freaking log, all the way to the back of the field after winning the pole at Gateway. Last year, he was 13th here. That gives me optimism, but in the years prior to that, 28th and 25th. I'm fading McNasty this week.
Well, you can just fucking walk yourself right out of the studio, my friend. We don't fade McNasty on this program. We're actually trying
first in 2024. Fade McNasty.
Yeah, wow, geez, can't believe I heard it. Mallory in the chat saying though she heard soccer, a little soccer fan over there from our girl Mal. We appreciate you tuning in, Mallory. All right, dude. Yeah, no, that's cool. That's cool. Where are you on the Harrison Burton one? Because I didn't take it, and now I'm regretting it that it's now 27.5, moved down a little bit. I can't his finishes the last 2 years have been better than that. He ran good here in the Xfinity Series. His dad's run good. Like everything says he should be better than that, but it's Harrison Burton, and I cannot bet money on Harrison Burton at this point in time.
Yeah, I mean, his only hope is that he gets some of his dad's magic. I think Jeff was the last guy to lead every single lap in a cup race, and it came at New Hampshire. He's going to need some big-time lessons from dad, because I don't give a fuck what the number is. Whatever has Harrison Burton lowest in the finishing order is what I'm putting my money on.
Yep. Agreed. Let's talk Xfinity race. Going to be Saturday afternoon if no rainouts happen.
Yep.
Where are we going here, Elliot? I didn't like I was watching the books like a fucking hawk this week. I said when Christopher Bell comes out, I'm smashing it. Plus 110, I'm not smashing. Again, you can't do it. Like again, a year ago, I was a different bettor. I might bet minus money on Kyle Busch to win a truck race because I was an asshole. I'm not as much of an asshole now, so I'm not doing that. Like I can't do it. I still will be invested in some way, but not that.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest with you. For Xfinity, write my notes here. I got nothing. I got fucking less than nothing. Christopher Bell, the numbers that he's at and the likelihood that he is to win this race. I mean, that's a guy who can go out there and lead damn near every lap in that. You know, there's other good drivers, there's other good cars here. You got the Hendrick 17 in there with Bowman. You've got other talented drivers. Justin Bonsignor, a big modified guy, is in another Gibbs car. Christopher Bell's waxing the fucking field. And I don't know who's going to finish second or third. Maybe an Allgaier if he doesn't blow a tire or have some other dumb shit happen. Maybe Bowman ends up third. Maybe Bonsignor has a good run. Maybe somebody else does.
Okay.
I just don't see any value in the books. You know, top 3 and top 5 being the only other options. It's Christopher Bell, man. It's Chris Bell.
Okay, well then, can I interest you? You said a lot there, and you said things that I agree with. I'm going with Toyota minus 140. I'm drinking all the juice this week. I told you. Hopefully,
I just stopped myself from spoiling that a minute ago because you told me that earlier. And the minus money manufacturer outrights in Cup, certainly I hate them. Right there, that might be better in the Xfinity. Take the Yoders.
Well, when you think about it, Bell's 3 for 3 winning here. JHN won in this number 20 car last season.
Right.
You also have Bonsignor, who I don't know if people know this guy. I didn't know about him until this week, but apparently he's an absolute ringer in the modified tour. He's going to be racing Saturday night, doing a little double duty. And apparently all this dude does is fucking get trophies at New Hampshire Speedway. So local guy. How many times did we get burned earlier this year? I did, trying to fade the Bubba Pollards of the world. You know what I mean? I'm not fading this guy. So I like him maybe in this Toyota. Like, I don't think he would win, but you know, he's there. We got Chandler Smith, who's the second favorite, like plus 550 around. So don't mind that. Sheldon Creed. I don't like Sheldon Creed. You've heard my opinion on him, but finished 5th here in 2022. And then Heim time as well. So I don't mind Toyota as a manufacturer. What about your guy Justin Bonsignor as freaking top 5, 4-1, Elliot? A little sprinkle, a little half uniter? Come on, come for the ride.
It's tough because I don't think he's been in Xfinity before. It's, you know, modifieds and Xfinity cars are.
Neither was fucking Bubba Pollard.
Yeah, but he's in late model stocks. That's a little more. You know, Butterbean ended up top 5 at Wilkes, but they're not open wheel like modifieds are. The guys who I do wish were in this Xfinity race, I'd hammer our guy Eric Almirola, and if Ryan Preece were in this field too, I'd hammer him. But neither of them are racing. Nobody gave him a ride here, so
okay.
I'm still at nothing. Even Charles here, Bowman at Xfinity top 5 for even money. I'm not fucking touching that with a 10-foot pole. No way. Not with Bowman. Not with the 17.
I can't get the 17 right.
It's not happening.
Every time I bet the 17 in Xfinity, they're terrible. They fall out of it, and every time I don't bet them, they win the race. So yeah, I'm good on Bowman this week. I will say, can I interest you in a little Riley Herbst 6-1 action, top 5? Another guy who's getting some looks in the Cup Series, as we kind of alluded to last weekend. Yeah, he was top 5 last week. This is very similar track that we're coming to. 6-1, I think, is a very generous number for a guy. Listen, Riley Herbst, he shows up at intermediates and that short tracks. Like, that's it. You're not going to get him on road courses slinging out there, although he did look pretty good at Portland earlier this season. You're not going to usually get him at super speedways. We saw what he did at Talladega, just left Haley Deegan out to drive. But and listen, I've never bet Riley Herbst in my life, so this is a new one for me. But 6-1, half unit on him, half unit on Bonsignor. Like, if you hit one of these, it pays for your Xfinity weekend. That's where I'm going here. That's all I got from an Xfinity Series side.
Yeah, I don't hate the Herbst bet, but man, Herbst is Herbst, and you still have dumbass Herbst things, like you said.
Yeah, he's like the Tyler Reddick of this series, where he can have a great day and then something happens in the last 10 laps and he does burn you. So, yeah, hopefully, like, I'm honestly, this will probably be the first Xfinity race in a couple months, maybe all season, that I won't watch live. So I'm hoping for good results, folks. I'll definitely have it on my phone, and I'll be at my buddy's house hoping he has it on in his garage. But if not, we're going to, hope and pray, folks.
Yeah, watch from afar. And like I said, there's an ocean of good Xfinity bets this week for people. I just don't have any interest in any of them.
No, honestly, no. Fuck the books. Like, there aren't good Xfinity odds this week. Like, most of the places that offer matchups for Xfinity didn't even drop them until this morning. They were the same across every single book. They were all very good. Like, they did a well job of, handicapping it. But and even, like, there was no top fives at any book this week for Xfinity until today. Caesars had them earlier. They had them like Tuesday, and then they took them away Wednesday and brought them back. I don't know what the hell was happening with that. So
Weird.
yeah, just a bummer. We're trying to grow the sport, folks. We need better odds out there, or better offerings, at least, for the Xfinity series. What do you say, Elliot? What do you say we round this out with a little bit of tire tiers and set up their DFS cards for the weekend?
Let's roll. Bring up that tier maker.
Let's do it.
Well, I know this will shock all of you, but Christopher Bell has the highest price this week at $11,000 on DraftKings. Then you have Hamlin at 10.8, Truex 10.6, Blaney 10.3, Larson at 10, and on down the board. The two cars that interchange every week, it's just our 36 chartered cars. Casgrel is in the 15, Ty Dillon's in the 16. Neither one of them are worth putting on this board, but we tell you that anyway.
Giddy up, Ty Dillon, let's go, baby. I'll be playing him in fan tracks where it'll be the $5 minimum, but outside of that, I don't love it.
What are you even playing him for the $5 minimum on fan tracks? What's wrong with you?
Because sometimes you gotta take. There's no one else around that margin. The next closest guy is like $8. Daniel Hemrick or Kaz. I can't pay that for them. So
they're even charging $8 for Kaz.
Yeah, things have changed over there, my friend. Let's start it off with Chris Bell. Throw him up there. I think he probably deserves to be the 101 just based on pedigree. Him and MTJ. Yeah, just keep them rolling.
There's your three, and then probably Larson and Chase next.
So I would actually argue that. Yeah, so I would actually argue Ryan Blaney should be number 3, even number 2. I mean, this guy just fucking. You've had no Ryan Blaney love at all, no sympathy for. I don't know what this guy did to piss in your Cheerios, Elliot. Guy just led 100 or 201 laps last weekend, had 118 DK points. Like, there's no love on the internet for Ryan Blaney. Like, he can't just go out and do it again.
Hey, I mean, I had to cut down the sheet a little bit. You said you didn't have a lot, and we've still run longer than I thought we would this week.
Yeah.
We've got 2 Blaney bets crossed off here. They boosted his outright to 750. If he was third in the total speed ranking, he's been hot lately. His top 5 is even plus money. Yeah. And if you're a conspiracy theorist, the last 3 races that have been on the NBC networks, Ryan Blaney's gone to victory lane. But
damn,
they just weren't good enough for me to particularly shout out. I don't have dislike for Blaney. It's just there's other guys that are more interesting, which those are the kind of weeks you love a Blaney. Nobody's fucking talking about him, and he's not nearly as chalky. Ends up getting you a fuck ton of points.
To be fair, he went to victory lane in the finale, but he didn't win that race. So let's keep that.
Oh, that's right. You're right. Whatever fucking asshole posted that on Twitter, I should have fact checked.
Yeah, add them and Brett Griffin to your block list. Right. well, let it go. Way to go, Elliot. Yeah. Who else belongs in this top tier? I would definitely throw Chase. I would put Chase above Hamlin, man. That setup that they missed last week. I wasn't on Hamlin. I haven't been on Hamlin for a while, and it's kind of been like some fuckery, if we're being honest. Like, blown engine at Sonoma, totally missing the setup last week. Got it together and then got taken out here. Obviously got saved by that bullshit phantom caution as well. But yeah, I'm just not on Hamlin this week. I don't know. It's a hefty price to pay, 10.8. That's more than Truex. It's more than Blaney. It's more than Larson. I don't know. I don't even know. I don't know, man.
Yeah, I mean, Gibbs has been good here. Denny's been good here. He's won 3 times, and he's had, I think, more than half his races were top 10s. Looking between bets, you might see some Denny Hamlin stats in there. I like Truex. I like Bell, and I might even like Gibbs at that number in terms of betting. But in DFS, I think Denny is still worth 5th, 6th, 7th where we have him right now. I'll take more arguments to put guys ahead of him, but I think he's low A, high B for sure.
Yeah, the only other guy that you could maybe consider for the? I mean, Kyle Larson's got to be A tier, end of the A tier probably, but
Yeah.
then where's Logano?
Logano is a high B. I don't hate it. I don't hate it.
I mean, he's performed lately. His performances over on DraftKings, 45.6 points, 47, 43, 115. So he's shown up. Let's not forget that he was also great at North Wilkesboro, kind of a similar track to this. And also when you're looking at the New Hampshire total speed rankings in the next gen era, number 2. So shockingly, Joey Logano, don't hate him. I'll probably be invested kind of heavily in DK just because like the 9.8's a good price, but Chase at 9.2. How can you get any better than that? That I love that.
Yeah, I mean, even Byron, who, like I said, has literally never run top 10 here, $300 more than Chase. But yeah, I think this is probably a fair adjustment here. Give Denny the respect of the highest spot in the B, but then I think Larson and Logano to round out the A's probably does make more sense.
Agreed. Who else do you think goes here in the B behind Hamlin?
Well, that's a tough one. Do we like Ty Gibbs enough to throw him up in the B's with his teammates?
You know, there's been a lot of love on the IBT site for Ty Gibbs this week. We had Ozzy, who released his prop bet article earlier today. He's on a top 10 for Ty Gibbs. It was like, I think minus 125 is the number he got. I personally don't love Ty Gibbs this week. He wasn't great here in the Xfinity series, which is kind of weird for him, who's kind of always great in the Xfinity series at these tracks. So I wouldn't, he's a B, but I'd say end of the Bs. Yeah. I would think Kez should be right up there, maybe even, like arguably in front of Hamlin. I like Kez a lot this week. It's just been running great. Hasn't had a performance worse than 30 DraftKings points the last couple weeks. Top 5 finishes here the last 2 weeks. And I like Tyler Reddick at 8.8 too. I think it's a good spot for Reddick. He hasn't really let you down outside of Iowa last week where he got trapped, a lap down, and he was a top 15 car. He wasn't fast last week, but he was a top 15 car and got trapped a lap down, finished 22nd. But before that, 45, 43, 49, 26. Like, he's been serviceable. I like Reddick this week as well.
I think this is probably a good spot for his teammate Bubba Wallace too. He's had the good stats here at a pretty damn low price, 7,500. I think that's a great number for how good he's been at Loudon.
Yeah. Top 10 last couple of years here. You shouted him out earlier. Sounded like he was going past your window there for a second. I just heard a little cup car going down the road.
I don't know if it's the effect of like you don't notice things until they affect you, but I swear to God, I never hear anybody out of the street. And every fucking Thursday, there's some bike that comes by. I don't know. I'll start paying more attention midweek when I'm not.
Every time I've been to your house out there in the Berg, never heard it. Your house, very quiet, very peaceful. But yeah, occasionally we get on here and someone's ripping it up. We got Bob saying 4, baby. I think, Josh Berry. I think he does belong in the B's, man. 88,000 flat. It's more than we paid for Berry. Yeah, it's more than what we've paid for him in the past, but I'll rock Josh Berry. I talked about him at length earlier. I don't think we need to harp on him, but I like Berry here. Who else do you think belongs here in this tier?
The only other 2 I'd really think of, we said Ty probably in the B. Any love for Buescher or Chastain at the end of the B's?
Chastain would probably be my preferred option here. Just been running really solid, man. You look at his, he has not finished. He has one race in the last 7 that he's had under 31 fantasy points, and that was still a 21 point day. So even going back all the way to Talladega, he's been really good from a DFS perspective. Not going to leave you out on a hill. And I think Buescher right behind him in the C's like you have is perfect because there's a matchup right now. I think it was on ESPN that was Ross over Buescher, and I really gave it some thought, but Buescher has kind of been surprisingly decent here as well. Not strong necessarily by any means, but has had a couple okay runs here at Loudon, finished 15th and 17th the last 2 years respectively.
Yeah, and thinking about the C's here, I'm almost tempted to bump Ty Gibbs down to the C because I really don't think we're going to have all that many. I think Bowman and Byron probably just because they're Hendrick cars and they've.
Oh yeah, we don't have Byron. Yeah.
Byron's been shitty and Bowman hasn't really had great New Hampshire numbers either. So.
Yeah, Byron has not been good here. Had a second place finish last weekend though, so I put Byron at the top of the C tier, unless you have an argument again. Because he was
a big one. Yeah, what have you done for me lately? Type of deal too is more important than
He's had more speed here the last couple weeks than Buescher and Gibbs in my opinion. I think you're right on with your guy in the 48. How do we feel about Briscoe? What happens with Briscoe here? What happens with fellow SHR guy Noah Gragson? They've looked pretty good. Price tags are okay. 7,200 for Briscoe, 73 for Gragson. Thoughts on them and anyone else you want to throw out in the C tier?
No, I don't have any arguments with that. I do think, like you said, if you're thinking SHR is going to get a win to get a guy in the playoffs, it's New Hampshire is probably your best shot the rest of the way. And I think they've run well enough here. Gregson, the hype has kind of died down. He hasn't continued that top 10 streak, but I don't hate him here. That 10 cars won here before when we haven't expected it to.
Yeah. We got Charles saying, think Gragson's going to have a good race given the silly season drama and unknown future. They're motivated. Like they're motivated. There's definitely question marks in that shop a little bit, as we alluded to earlier, Chuck, but they're definitely motivated. They're 100% going to go out there and put it all out on the track every single week.
And Gregson doesn't strike me as a guy to get real anxious about stuff like that. You know, a guy like Briscoe, just his personality with a guy like Noah Gragson. He's going out there. He wants to drive fast race cars. He wants to have a good time wherever he's going to be able to do that. I think he knows that he's got enough talent to stay in Cup at this point. Whether or not he ends up in a better ride or a worse ride is yet to be seen.
Sure.
I think he's pretty much a slam dunk to go to one of the front row cars unless he can get something better, which is the same conversation with Haley. We don't know what is out there that is better. Maybe he's best sliding into front row if they give him the offer. But anyway.
Speaking of Justin Haley, let's put him in the D tier, as Bob is alluding to.
He and Todd, I think, got to lead off the Ds.
Yep, I think absolutely. With what Justin Haley's done, like from a DFS perspective, this guy does not burn you any week because he always doesn't have the best qualifying. However, been getting better at qualifying. There was a point at practice last week, Elliot, when I looked up on the board, and he was third fastest, Justin Haley. So it is having speed a little bit. So you're not getting as many differential points. Hasn't actually qualified outside the top 30 in about a month now. So, you know, a little bit smaller of a ceiling for him at times, but still send him out there. Jay Hay is going to be a great value for you this week. 6,100 once again. And shout out Charles, man. Thank you for the super sticker of $9.99. We greatly appreciate that, man. Again, this support is very, 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 very well welcomed, and thank you so much, and very well appreciated. It helps us go to the races and keep bringing you guys more content. So thank you so much. We appreciate it, Elliot.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. And, you know, like you said, we're excited for Pocono. Less than a month now. You know, it helps us with the giveaways. It helps us with all the shit we got to deal with at the track to get out there and get your content done. So, you know, we're grateful that you guys watch and grateful that you guys like us enough to throw a little bit of cash our way. Super cool.
Yeah, and I will say we were in a pretty sketchy Red Roof Inn about 45 minutes away last year at Pocono.
It'll help us get to a place better than Uncle 80's for dinner. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, folks, we'll have to tell you a story offline if we ever meet you at a race. But Ellie and I went to a sketchy little bar in Hazleton. Hey, free drinks, got some free drinks out of it. A couple, I'll be honest, that was cool. But definitely some weird vibes going on at Uncle 80's. This year, I'm very happy to announce that we're going to be like 5 minutes from the track in the nicest little resort on Split Rock. We're going to have a lakefront view. So vibes will be high that weekend, my friend. Vibes will be high that weekend.
No doubt about it. Can't wait. But hey, let's continue with the New Hampshire talk right here. I don't want to get ahead of ourselves. Any thoughts on RCR? Are they worth the D?
Kyle Busch is worth a D. Yeah, throw Kyle Busch. This is where I think Kyle Busch goes. James saying 5-star hotel, Red Roof Inn.
There's benefits to a Red Roof Inn. It's just most of that benefit is the cheap cost.
I would throw Cindric in, honestly, above maybe Kyle Busch. I don't mean to be that much of an ass. 7,000 for Cindric versus 77 for Busch. Like, Cindric was disappointing last weekend. I faded him in a matchup, and Briscoe finished like 2 spots above him, 27th, 29th or whatever. But Cindric has some speed here. Oh, geez. Suarez and McDowell are the only cases I have for this tier here, unless you have anything.
I'm okay with that. You know, we've kept it even so far, I think.
Actually, put McDowell in F. Put McDowell in F. Well, you faded him earlier.
I'm just messing with you. I do think you're on board now with my fade McNasty, putting him in the Fs though.
Yeah, I mean, still on the board. Hocevar was who I wanted to make room for in the Ds. Hocevar,
gotcha.
35 points last week, started 14th, finished 20th, started the week before in 13th, finished 17th, finished 8th the week before, 21st, 10th. Like, this guy is fucking good, man. Hocevar has not caused a lot of crazy shit to happen. Like, I thought when he signed this deal, a pie on my face. I was totally wrong about Carson Hocevar. He's looked like the real deal here, and almost seems like a cup car kind of weirdly fits him better than a truck did, if that makes sense. Like he's not making as many wild moves, and I don't know if that's just he's grown up in the last year or what, but I love this fucking kid.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting caveat that I hadn't thought too much about. Is it used to be it was a more linear progression, but now the next gen has become so much different than the Xfinity and the trucks that you're seeing, guys. I mean, I would say this is probably going to be the case, assuming that we see Shane Van Gisbergen go full time with Trackhouse next year. Is that I think that he's going to obviously look dominant on road courses. I'm excited to talk about him more, and still kicking myself I didn't put a sprinkle on his outright last year in Chicago when I mentioned it.
Yeah.
But I think that the next gen car is going to suit some guys' driving styles better than Xfinity, and it'll be interesting to see where that all falls out. You know, does the Xfinity car get updated to the sequential shifter and all the other things that the next gen has had? Or are we just going to see guys, you know, weird Xfinity guys that do okay that suddenly dominate in the next gen, or guys do great in Xfinity, don't have it in the Cup Series? You know, this could almost be maybe Zane Smith is the inverse. Maybe he was great in the trucks, had some good Xfinity runs. Maybe the next gen doesn't suit his driving style.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've seen guys like Corey Heim come up this year and really look serviceable at times. So yeah,
Sure.
I think it's a very interesting conversation that we'll definitely have in the off season as we see some more guys come up. James saying crazy how Busch has fallen. Yeah, dude. And
Really is.
yeah, and Ellie kind of tried to put out my fire a little bit earlier, and I'm sure Kyle, like I would still, if you gave me money that Kyle Busch might win a race this year, I would maybe take the over that he does, just
Yeah.
on the fact that
I think he's 100% winning a race this year. I just think it's going to be in the same ilk as 2020. It's going to come when nobody fucking cares and he's out of the playoffs. But he'll get a win. His win in 2020 was on a Wednesday night in Texas.
Yeah.
We waited forever to run.
Yeah.
And in 2022, I think it was the Bristol Dirt Race. You know, that was the only race he won, and he really had no business winning it. So he has had some luck to get there, but I just think luck will continue to drop his way.
Yeah, it's tough. Charles saying any love for Stenhouse. I don't know if I have love for Ricky. I got love for Mike Kelly though. I mean, just outsmarting the field last week. Throw him in here, dude. I think Ricky Stenhouse at 6,000 flat. Like, besides, I don't know if I want to go below him really at all this week. Like 6,000 might be the lowest I'm willing to pay for someone this week. And Ricky Stenhouse is that guy. Been very solid DFS points wise. 70 points last week. Like he broke slates. If you had Ricky Stenhouse last week, you won. Yeah,
definitely. He definitely is really good at putting out those good numbers for low prices. I'm trying to look up Hemrick's performance the last couple weeks. He was a darling there for a while, but I see it hasn't been quite as good. The last couple races, 14, 21, 35, 31, 25, and 4. You know, that may not even be enough to throw up there at the moment, even at 5,100.
Yeah, at 5,100, like he hasn't been burning you. You know, he still has like his only negative points race of the entire season came all the way back at Coda earlier this year. So we have a pretty light F tier. I think Hemi belongs on there. Throw Hemi some love. Give him a little, because like who else do you rank here? Eric Jones.
I think Priest is probably my only other guy I would rank just because of the New Hampshire connection and the SHR connection. Past that, I don't know that I can make a strong case for anybody.
I mean, dude, legacy. I just cannot believe it. Talk about another instance when I was dead wrong at the beginning of the season. I thought making the switch to Toyota would really give them the upper hand. They look worse. They look worse than last year. And this is kind of the time when Eric Jones started showing up late last year. We know we caught him at Pocono after that great top 10 run, and vibes were high, and he kind of turned it on late in the season. But I just have no faith in Legacy Speed right now. I mean, change their goddamn team name, because this is not a Legacy team right now. Like you're ruining the name of Jimmy Jam and the great one out there as well.
Yeah, well, first of all, I mean, Jimmy Johnson has run like shit every time he's coming to the next gen car. A Richard Petty team hasn't been good since the 90s. I mean, how far back do you have to go?
True.
Since Petty teams are real good. But what I think they are doing, and I'll keep this short, is that they don't have an alliance with anybody. They didn't go into a Gibbs alliance or 2311 alliance. They're doing it on their own. They're keeping their stuff in-house. They're making it work. It's going to be growing pains, but they're trying to pull the furniture row. They're trying to be like, well, maybe we can fucking outsmart you guys and make it up there without needing your help and without risking throwing all your ducks in a basket. Oh, fuck, Gibbs is pulling away the support from Furniture Row. We got to shut the team down. You know, they're trying to avoid that sort of rug pull, which I guess wouldn't
Yeah.
happen with the Chargers as much. But Legacy, it'll pay off. I think JHN and Jones are good drivers. If Jones doesn't jump ship, I think the 19 car has been decided, but Jones is a guy who could end up jumping ship. But I think Legacy will get there. But you're right. This week and lately, it just has been complete hot garbage from them.
Oh yeah. Oh, it's been bad. It has been bad. Throw Austin Dillon up on the board too. Maybe even in front of I think I'm a little like that feels good for Dillon because you look at his performances, it's been up or down, 42 last week, minus 15 at Sonoma, but then 54 at Gateway. So, back 42 points in the All-Star Open. The guy's been showing up on the short flats, and if you remember as well, he ran the Xfinity race here, I believe, last year, and he was kind of a contender at one point, leading some laps late in that race, ends up getting mixed up. But Austin Dillon's kind of been a weird contender here in the last couple of years, so I don't mind him here.
Yeah, and he's that kind of guy. He's almost an enigma in the Cup Series. Run like garbage a bunch, occasionally pull out race-winning speed, and then run like garbage the next week.
Yeah, absolutely. James asking here, outright winner not named Larson, Hamlin, or Reddick. Thank you for your content. Appreciate you guys. James, we appreciate you as always tuning in, man. I think he's asking here for an outright that isn't one of those guys. Elliot would be my pick, Elliot or Barry. That's kind of where I am. What about yourself, Elliot?
Yeah, I mean, he didn't have Bell or Truex in that list, right?
Yeah, true.
Yeah, I know they're the favorites, but if you win, it doesn't. Obviously, you want to win more if a guy's better odds. But if you're going to win a bet anyway, take a 4.5 to 1 that you're pretty damn sure you're going to win.
Yeah, like Larson and Hamlin are actually guys I'm not trying to bet this week. Their stats here just necessarily don't jump out. Like you're getting a fine price, 7-1 on these guys. Like not solid, not bad at all. But I don't know. This isn't their week for me. Even in like if you're doing a one and done or a fan tracks league where you have to count how many times you start a guy, I'm not trying to start necessarily those guys either.
For sure, if it's a league like that where you can only use a guy a certain amount of times, do not fucking touch these guys at all. Because they're going to be your bona fide favorites at some of the 1.5 miles and some of the more traditional stuff. Shorter flats, go with some variance because more fuckets is going to happen there. And they're not the favorites. They're not the best here.
Yeah. Yeah. James, in a contest where you can only use a driver twice, that is tough. Wow. That's really tough. Yeah.
Have you already played Haley and Gilliland? This might be your week.
Yeah, for real. Josh Berry, fire him up this week.
Yep.
Fire him up, James.
Even if you got to burn a priest, this might be a good spot to burn a priest.
Yeah, honestly, that's actually that's a pretty good. Although like Priest's like best finish here, I think it's only 15th or 16th in a Cup car, which is surprising for a guy.
15th or 16th for Priest would be pretty good how the season's going.
Yeah, that's true. That's true, man. Holy cow. All right, Elliot, any final thoughts? You're going to have your article up on the website tomorrow. I have the DFS article on the website as well. We got Aussies out there as well, and trying to bring people more content as we progress throughout the season. What else do you have for the people, though, my friend?
Yeah, I mean, we've hit just about everyone on this board here. Corey LaJoy, I mean, I got to change what this number here. Put something more interesting up. Looks like a big old meatball with a number 7 in the middle of it. I'm sure he's had a more interesting paint scheme we could liven these numbers up with. Hope people enjoy those. Harrison Burton is Harrison Burton and Zane Smith is Zane Smith, and that's everybody. So got to keep it through.
Yep, we'll keep it moving there for sure. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in tonight, hanging out with us. Easiest way to support us, just give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed this type of content. Subscribe to the channel if you aren't already. Check out the website. But we greatly appreciate it, man. This is always I barely any bets today, and we somehow already went an hour and a half, Elliot.
That's the beauty of it. Thanks to the community for throwing out their questions too. That certainly helps with interaction. And Seth, I just think we're at the point where we've got the data to back it up. We've got the betting history, and we've got some good intuition. I think that, little stub shows, even with the two of us, going for 45 minutes are a thing of the past.
Yeah. And we got the IBT family too, man, who they like weighing in. And James saying, have a good week and enjoy the races. God bless, man. Absolutely. I hope everyone enjoys it. Shout out to our guy, Rod. He's out there training right now. Thank you for your service, Rod. We greatly appreciate you. Excited to get him back on the show here in a couple weeks, as well as our guy, Tino. Excited to fire him up here in a couple weeks as well. So it's going to be a fun summer. I got like 4 weekends in a row that I'm going to be traveling, and then I'm going to be in Pocono with you and your smiling face, Elliot, in about a month from now. So jazzed up, man. Let's go, buddy. Yeah,
we're getting closer and we're really hitting the summer stretch here, and we're hoping to keep the good mojo going and keep the money flowing into IBT. thank you all for supporting. Seth, any final words here before we send us home?
No, be safe this weekend and keep it in between. That's all I got.
Let's roll. And thanks for rolling down the back road with us. As Seth said, keep it in between. Best of luck this weekend for your bets in New Hampshire. We will see you this time next week for another episode of The Back Road.